Oh, it got quiet. Nice. That's how we like an audience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nice and attentive. Look at them. They're beautiful. Or it might just be the light in here. It's quite dark.
I like a little bit of chaos.
Yeah. I specifically said not to light this side of the stage too much, so the live stream people can't see me.
So then it's a conversation with ghosts?
Yes. I mean, we
Perfect.
are in a slightly haunted place.
Yes, I'm hopeful that a ghost will
appear.
engage us for the evening.
Oh God, that's worrying. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the caves. Welcome to an evening with Olivie Blake. This is where you applaud. Louder! Come on! You may also cheer online. I can hear you cheer. My name is Anne. I'm the festival director and founder of Cymera, Scotland's Festival of Science Fiction, Fantasy and Horror Writing, which is why I get to talk to Olivie, because I'm qualified or something. And I love nothing more than discovering new authors. That's like my favorite thing, which is why my festival program is usually full of debuts. And then people are like, did you invite anyone that we've heard of? And I'm like, no. But debuts are the best. And then we invite them back, and then they're big, and it's all fine. So
I look forward to being boring one day.
You are never, ever, ever going to be boring.
You know,
so
it'll be
we
a
are
privilege,
here.
though. Oh, her.
I know. You're like, oh, God, her again. And actually, when you next come in person, you'll be like famous. You're going to have a rider. You're going to ask for like blue Smarties or something ridiculous.
Yeah, right. I'm going to specify only blue Tootsie Rolls.
You can't get Tootsie Rolls.
Oh, yeah, right. Sorry. I once got in trouble for digging through a jar of different flavored Tootsie Rolls because I was looking for the blue ones. It was like I was scolded as an adult, which my bad for being an adult going through the Tootsie Rolls.
What is a Tootsie Roll?
Oh, sorry. The cultural takes already. I have no idea how to describe to you what a Tootsie Roll is.
Okay.
I don't know where to begin. They're usually chocolate flavored, but when they come in different colors, they're like fruit flavored. But the blue one is vanilla, and I guess
this is messing with my head already.
It's closest to like a taffy, I would say, maybe. For some reason, the blue ones are very, very good, and you're not supposed to go digging for them.
Okay. There is an American sweet shop on Princess Street, but apparently it's a front for the mafia, so don't go in.
Actually, my favorite treat, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but we're talking about candy, so this is important to me. Every time I come to the UK, I get Tangfastics. They don't have those in the US, and I asked someone to bring me some Tangfastics, which I love, and he brought me like a huge, like this big, and it took me like a month, but I got through it.
That's dedication. That's dedication. We are not here to talk about candy. We are here to talk about Atlas 6. And in this part of the evening, I have to take a poll because spoilers. So hand up if you haven't read it. Okay, a few. So we're not going to spoil the ending because it's a trilogy. We're not going to,
I'm going to destroy the books for you.
So let's just start at the end. No, it'll be fine. It'll be spoiler-free. And if you asking questions at the end, if you could keep those spoiler-free too, you can probably sneak a spoilery question into the signing. If you're careful.
I did have someone in Birmingham say, I would like to discuss that scene. And we kind of all instantly knew what she meant. So if you'd like to pull one of those, like, I'm good. Good with the cheeky questions too. Those are fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I just won't answer if it's too cheeky.
You have been warned. We will leave plenty of time for audience questions, so don't worry. But I get to ask questions first. That's how it goes. So I want to go back. I want to go back in time.
Yes.
Because
Right.
Because this has been in your brain.
Yes.
For a long, long time.
Yes.
Do you actually remember where it started?
Its original origins, the far back origins, I initially wrote university age portal fantasy. So it's the kind of thing where they like walk through a door and all of a sudden you're at this college and this is where you study. And it was a similar magic in that everyone had a specialty and that was like their major. And there was a big bad and everybody sort of came together to defeat this villain. And just instantly I was like, this is boring. Not in that it was boring, but it was highly derivative. It had been done many, many times before, and I don't think in my first iteration I had not done anything different. And so I put it aside, didn't think there was anything there really. and kind of let it sit in my brain for a while. Went back to revisit it. I was rereading it, and it's the same thing where it wasn't bad. It was just kind of boring. And so I was thinking to myself, it needs higher stakes. It needs, I'm not that interested in the let's take down the bad guy, because for me, you take down a bad guy and you still have the institution that made the bad guy. You still have where the bad guy came from. You still have the same problems. And this is my problem with all media. That's just like, you're telling me there's one bad guy and if we get rid of him, everything is solved. No, never. So I kind of wanted to remove that aspect. I wanted older characters. I wanted to have, older problems. And I also, as I was going through the original draft, felt that some of the background characters were more interesting. So I will just tell you that Callum and Parisa were background characters in the original version of this book. And then I was like, that's crazy. We need to know what these two are thinking, like specifically these two. And then Raina was completely new. I just had this idea. Basically, the entire book, the Atlas 6, revolves around me thinking it would be so funny if there was a girl who really resented that plants were talking to her all the time. All I had in my mind was just the image of just true annoyance, just like a little plant in the corner, like back talking you, like, and so that's how. So that was Raina. And then I came up with sort of the, I knew that I wanted it to be very, very character driven. I come from fan fiction. I talk about this a lot, that like fan fiction is completely character driven. The only thing that matters is that you get the characters right. The pacing is not important. Like, if anything, I always say fan fiction is a great way to learn to write certain things. It's a great way to learn to write emotional beats, emotional arcs, because all of fan fiction is about how do I make my audience feel something? How do I make them feel something and then come back for more? Because the way it works is episodic. You write something, you post it, some people comment, hopefully, and then you just keep going and they sort of follow along. I used to call my chapters more like episodes. What you don't learn is like pacing, because you could just run off and do a super quick coffee shop AU for a few minutes, go on a quick little quest for a couple of chapters.
Don't tell me you're one of those. Are there any people in this room that start a fan fiction that hasn't been finished yet? Because that's my pet. Oh my God, you're so brave. I always double check in AO3 that they are finished.
Wow. I have seen things like that happen where all of a sudden the fan fiction author comes back from the dead and you're like, oh, okay. I do think, I was religious about updates. It was every week at the same day, same time, because I know people don't people have been burned. So I understand, but I loved that we were sort of all on that ride together. And I think I took that mindset with me. I wanted to take my readers on a ride. And I specifically wanted to write for the audience who's willing to be taken on a ride. That's just like, I just want to see, I want to live inside these characters' heads. I want to never be told the truth. This is the thing that I loved about writing this. From a craft perspective, none of these characters is ever telling the truth. You, the audience, are supposed to decide that their perspectives are juxtaposed in a way that it kind of suggests the outside shape of what the truth might be, but it's kind of for you to take something from that. I'm not one of those authors that does a lot of extra textual, like, oh, this is what this means, and I'm not a Taylor Swiftian author. Everything that I want you to see is there for you to find or not find or interpret, and I'm totally going all over the place. My apologies.
That's fine. It's fine. This will be available on YouTube after. You can just rewind and check what she said. It's fine.
No one will know what the original question was. I just get so excited to talk about writing.
Okay, so we have Parisa and Callum and Raina. Mm-hmm. Where did the all three come from?
So Libby and Nico were already there. They originally existed in very similar forms. And then Tristan was also already there, which is funny now to think about. I think I made the most changes to Tristan. In the original version, he was sort of like on the bad guy's side. And I liked that he was the character who couldn't quite figure out his morality. He was just kind of going with where his loyalties were and not really thinking much about it. And instead, I was like, what if he thought about it constantly? What if he thought about it so much that he couldn't get anything done?
I mean, you feel for him. You're just like,
I hope so.
When you're in his head, you're like, oh my God, boy. Like,
Yeah,
honestly.
Tristan, are you okay?
Constantly.
Right.
Okay, so you had your set of characters.
Yes.
Did you kind of have the world? That was because I really like this really contemporary now world with the Median influences and where it all coexists and it's not. I just really like that. Was that always there?
So no. So originally it was a portal fantasy, so it was a second world fantasy. But I really
was there elves?
No, there were no elves.
Dragons?
But there might be in the background. They're just not relevant yet. Surprise!
Book 3!
Surprise, book 3. There have been dragons the whole time. I mean, there is a mermaid, so, who am I to say? Do you know what, every time I think about what's in the ocean, I'm just like, probably there are dragons somewhere. Right? There's so many species of, sometimes my husband is like, do you know how many, species of bugs there are? Because I don't like bugs. And he's like, do you know how many bugs there are, per, yeah. So anyway, there could be dragons.
Okay, you've heard it here first. There may be dragons.
But I prefer working in this sense. When I wanted to tell this story, the story I was telling here, very different from the one I started with, because I wrote this book in the winter of 2019, which was a very tenuous political time, I think for everyone, but in the United States, for me specifically, I was really wrestling with the main question: would it be ethical for me to bring a child into this world knowing that I don't know what the world is going to look like? I can't promise my baby any of the things that I had, any of the security. I already can't promise the security my parents had, or, the previous generations, I can't promise them that. And I was looking at, there was the report that was there's 8 good years of air left, and just constant, the U.S. just will not do anything about guns. So there was lots of, and reproductive rights were a big thing, and it was just sort of, I was trying to quiet the chaos a little bit and try to think, okay, so what do we do if the world ends? And I kind of took a step back, and it's okay, the world doesn't end, right? The world is bigger than we are. Our world might end. And what is it, how is it possible to live ethically? Is it possible? And the way that I wanted to do it was to start with an extremely claustrophobic situation. So 6 people in a house that have to make this incredibly difficult, what should be very difficult decision. And that was the decision that I wanted everything sort of to turn on. And I wanted to start with this. I compare it to, The Bachelor, Big Brother. I specifically like to compare it to The Bachelor because we've all bought into this idea that you're all going to do this crazy thing and love and happiness is going to come out of it. And it's kind of the same idea with the society. It's if you just do this one thing that you're told you have to do, you get power and knowledge and prestige, and it's going to be amazing, and don't even worry about what happens to get there. I also did, I do like to toe the line of the absurd a lot. So if you feel moments of there's something a little silly about this, I put it there on purpose.
But at the same time, what I really admired about the book is your magic, the way your magic is science. And when I had the option at school to get rid of physics, I did biology instead. So the physics, I was I have no idea what you're talking about. It's really cool. Do you know what you're talking about?
Isn't that a good question? Who knows the answer to that question? So my husband is a physics teacher, and I took biology, chemistry, and then I took AP chemistry to avoid taking physics. So that's how far I went out of my way. And then I still had to sit through high school physics because I sat through a year of Zoom while he was in my house. So yeah, so I have unfortunately learned physics. But no, so you know, one interview asked me, like, is science a passion of yours? And I was like, I wouldn't call it a passion so much as like a roommate, because it's there all the time. It's taking up space on my bookshelves, and so whenever I have an idea, he happens to be there. And I think when I originally told him, I was like, I think I opened with, if you could have access to all of the knowledge in the world, say knowledge that doesn't even exist, like, what would you want to study first? And he was like, space! Like, just right away knew the answer. So that's why we started with space. And like, as soon as he knew that I was going to do that, he was like, read this book and this book. And he was like, here, have some light Einstein, which, I loved. But so for the record, though, if you do like the physics in the book, I highly, highly recommend Carlo Rovelli. He's he's an Italian physicist. He's one of the founders of the quantum gravity concept. But he's a beautiful writer. It's like poetry. It's incredible. But what I really liked about theoretical physics was the way that it kind of merges with naturalism and mythology, and you get a lot of philosophy in there, because functionally all physics is looking at the world and saying, how did this happen? It asks the exact same questions that mythology and religion ask. It just answers them with, like Brownian motion. And so I was like, I guess I will read the...
You are secret root Rainer, aren't you? You're like, no, I'm not going to have all this naturalist thing at university. I'm going to do myths.
That was what it felt natural to bring it back to for me, and that's what felt interesting to me. My husband is all about the mechanics of physics, and I was like, I just need to know enough mechanics to make sure it works. He is my science consultant. He did just finish book 2, and he did have notes. So I am not a preeminent physicist yet. But he does tell me that I at least understand the foundational principles. So congratulations to me.
Well done. And would you put a wrong thing in and just go, it's fiction? Or would you have to sleep on the couch for the rest of your life?
I think that would not be something I could do. Yeah, there is a lot of research that goes into this book, into these books. I think that when the series is over, I'll probably put out like a an index of my sources. Like, these books are my my dissertation or something.
Or you could just write a physics book.
Olivie
no. Blake's physics.
Well, it's much more than, I read a lot about physics and about time and stuff, but I also read a lot of mythology. I'm now reading a lot of philosophy. I did a lot of psychology, looking at, the second book sort of revolves around the idea of a blueprint, whether people have a blueprint for their lives. So very Jungian psychology. So I think it could be, eventually I will tell you all of the books that I read, maybe, probably.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be very, very exciting for everyone.
You never know.
Oh, I also read a lot about geoengineering. That was hard.
So your life choice of being an author is working out really well, isn't it?
Beautifully.
Okay, so we have our six characters, all from very different backgrounds and with very different motivations. Mm-hmm. How well do you know them?
How well do I know their motivations?
And the characters? Or
Yes.
did they just kind of integrate themselves in your life and you're just like, oh, you did what?
Oh, yeah. I think that, because my writing is so character first, I understood a lot of things about them before I knew things about them. The example I always bring it back to is the Kalaman Parisa scene, which I will not spoil, but it is a significant scene. So I wrote that all in one go. I sat down, started writing, and as I was writing, I was like, I'm making choices. Like, and it's like, and I've committed to these choices. It was, I always talk about how, if you're someone who wants to be a writer, and especially if you want to be a career novelist, a lot of times you can't wait around for inspiration. A lot of times you have to train yourself to write without it. But that scene is that's an example of when you feel it, sort of coursing through your veins, that like, here's the story. And so that scene has probably seen the fewest edits of any scene. I think even going from, for those of you who don't know, the newly published version is revised from my self-published version, and even then it wasn't touched. So yeah, so that scene is pretty much as I imagined it. It was all news to me. And then after I wrote it, I was like, well, I guess I've committed to these backstories now.
Looks like that's what's happening.
Yeah, there's another scene like it in book 2. That happens again, and every time I'm like, I've just made so many decisions with no. It just, I don't know. The muse had thoughts. The muse had notes.
I think they're just in your brain.
Oh yeah.
I think they're just there, and you've lived with them for such a long time.
Well, it's polite of me to call it the muse.
Yeah, definitely.
Doctors have a different name for it.
We got terribly distracted. I was going to ask you about. So you've self-published it.
Yes.
Because you self-published lots of other things,
Yes.
which is insane.
Yes.
I've just got to put that out
a little
there,
bit.
because
Yeah.
self-publishing is so hard.
Right.
It's so hard.
Right.
And then you got picked up by
Yes.
people of Tor.
Yes.
You happy? I can. Jamie Lee is not listening. It's fine. We're not going to tell them. Is it? Are you like, yes?
No,
this
I'm
is,
like, what
this
if
is
I
what I
was
wanted.
like, I mean.
I mean, you're Sunday Times, New York Times bestselling, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I have to use the caveat that, because there's a lot of people who ask me about self-publishing secrets, right? And I think that there are people who genuinely want to self-publish, and that's the career they want to have.
Brandon Sanderson.
I think it's right.
Yeah,
He has certainly the resources to do whatever he wants. So self-publishing, if you want to make a living off self-publishing, is extremely, extremely challenging, because you're your own. Well, unless you pay for these things, you're your own cover designer, you're your own interior designer, you're your own production manager, you do your own marketing, publicity, all that stuff. And so for me, I only want to be a writer. I didn't want to do the other things. It was just that I had so many stories. I'm a very prolific writer. I have dropped this number a lot, but 4 million words of fan fiction in 4 years. And like several books and manuscripts, lots of stuff that hasn't been read ever because it's just been...
Did you write book 2 in 4 weeks?
I did write book 2 in 4 weeks.
That's insane, by the way. Just putting that out there.
I wrote the first draft of book 2 in 4 weeks. A first draft, it's not a book, but I did, yeah.
80,000, 120? How many words is it? 140? 160?
It's about 150,000 words.
Okay.
It's longer than book 1.
Wow. And you have a 10-month-year-old baby.
Yes. Sorry? Oh, yeah, I've never done that. But I did write it during the month of November, so haha. But okay, so wait. So I had all these stories, and I had the benefit of having an audience because I had my fan fiction audience. And granted, the people who read my self-published works, it's like a tiny, tiny fraction of that. But I knew that if I had a story that wasn't right for the market, and my best example of this is my first book, Masters of Death, because it had a vampire during a time when every literary agent was like, do not send me vampires. That email will be deleted unread, like just not interested in vampires. But I was like, but I have a great story. Just trust me. But no one, like, yeah. So I knew that story, it's not going anywhere, but it's what I wanted to write. So I released it anyway, self-published it. Had my illustrator friend Lil Cymera, who you may have heard of. She's the Atlas Six's illustrator. So she and I had been working together for years because we were both she's a fan artist and I was a fan fiction writer. So we collaborated for a long time. I decided just for fun, I was like, oh, what if you did some illustrations for my books? It was a genius move. I am a genius. I just didn't know it at the time. So released that book, and then I realized, I could just keep doing this. I write enough manuscripts that I could release some for self-publishing and some to try to traditionally publish. So everything that I self-published, I thought, no publisher wants this. No publisher wants this. And then everything else was like, okay, this may be. And so by the time I got to the Atlas Six, I was getting very frustrated with the traditional publishing process. And I kind of skipped over it. So what I wanted to say, the benefits of self-publishing, if that's what you want to do, 100% creative control, which is an amazing thing. I got to tell every single story I wanted to exactly the way I wanted to. And that's what I wanted to do with the Atlas 6. I did not want an editor to tell me what was appropriate or whether, like, you know, one character had to be straight. I just didn't want to hear it. So, so I wrote the Atlas 6. It was what I was wrestling with at the time. I was like, this is better than the original version. It's what I like to write. It's an ensemble cast. It's very character-driven. It's very thinky. It really,
I love that, thinky. I've never read a more thinky book than this. It's great.
Very thinky. It rewards the audience who's willing to think and who's willing to sit and kind of be like, yeah, I'm going to exist in this moment, in this conversation. I'm going to participate in this philosophical debate. And so released it in January 2020. In around March of 2020, something crazy happened. Not to me personally, to the world. And so I sort of got the feeling that something was different about it. You know, the people who read it, who always read my works, were like, no, this one is different. There's something about this one that I feel more attached to or more excited by. And I was like, well, okay, that's great. And, you know, in the meantime, I started to see some traditional publishing success. I got my agent. I got an editor for my young adult manuscript. Very sort of small, you know, I thought I was going to have sort of a long publishing road. It was a long publishing road. It was 5 years of nothing. So it was 5 years of a gamble of spending, you know, I would write for like, you know, probably 10 to 12 hours a day just because that was what I had to do. It was my way of sort of wrestling with my own mental health. It was also the only thing that I wanted to do. I had ruled out many careers by that point. I am not appropriate for many careers.
That is their loss, our gain.
Thank you. But yeah, so and then I don't have a lot of secrets. Like, people always want to hear my marketing secrets, or like, how do I get so many DMs that are like, hi, I want to be self-published. How do I get discovered on TikTok? And I'm like, oh my God, please, like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But yeah, so I don't have a lot of advice for the person who actually wants to succeed in self-publishing. I just happen to be this weird case of I like to think that on the positive side, what is so exciting about my book doing well, separate from it being my book, is that it is, every single character is 100% sexually fluid. No one had a problem with this. No one made me change it.
Honestly, you've come into publishing at such a good time, because 5 years ago you got
right. Yeah. No. The timing here was perfect, nuts and perfect, because and like the rise of TikTok, what I love so much about TikTok and social media, I love that it's really driven. It's driven by like a lot of young women, mostly. I would say, obviously not exclusively. But I love that. It always makes me think of how, like, you know, they say that Shakespeare got his lexicon from the young women of the time. I love the idea that young women will save publishing, you know? Like, that it just fills me with so much joy. Like, there's a reason that romance and fantasy do so well on this very, like, insanely community-driven social media. And I love that as like a revolution. I love the idea that there's all these marginalized creators that get a voice now because there's not a gatekeeper just saying who gets to come in. Because I think that there would have been many gatekeepers that would be like, please wait outside. And there were. One of my books that I self-published, Alone with You in the Ether, that is a traditional publishing failure because I did cold query it, and I got lots of responses that were like, I don't relate to these characters. I was like, lucky you. Oh, you've never had crippling depression? Must be nice. or I get things like, oh, sorry, I already have a mental illness book in my backlist. Like, you're right, there's only room for one.
Yeah. Or, you know, we've already got a BIPOC writer, we don't need to.
Yeah. Or, you know, and it was starting to feel like, am I gonna have to only write Filipino books? Or am I just this one thing because I'm not allowed to rewrite things? You know, like, So I love that this happened. I love that this book is essentially crowdsourced, that like all these people are like, those are my hot nerds. And I love it.
I mean, they are all exceedingly hot.
Yes, yeah, that's the only.
Was that your conscious decision?
Yes, that's the only important takeaway, is that every character in this book is hot. Yeah.
In their own special way.
Yes. I'd like to bring up, so there are two reasons that there's not a lot of physical descriptions. One, I'm a little bit face blind, and I'm not good at physical descriptions. I used to work for the public defender's office, and every time witnesses would be like, and he had this shape of face, and he was wearing this, and I was like, no, he wasn't. You don't know that. No, you don't. But anyway, and then the second thing is that beauty is it's so subjective, and it's subjective on, the Western idea of beauty. I don't want to like come out here and tell you what that looks like. I sort of want your mind to populate it for yourself. So, which is
going to be really difficult when it comes on a big screen.
Right. At that point, I will tell you.
Yeah.
At that point, I will have told you.
Yeah, you're gonna have veto rights. For those of you that don't, it's gonna get onto our televisions near you with Amazon Prime.
Yes.
Were you excited?
Yes, I'm working with Amazon Studios and Bright Star Productions, which is a UK production company, which is exciting.
Very exciting.
Yes.
We have lots of really nice manor houses up here in Scotland.
It's true.
It's really nice.
I know, and I'd love to just come out here and just stay here, and then you won't be able to get rid of me. When I was a kid and starting to suspect that I was maybe a nerd, like that was probably the type of person I was.
What gave it away?
Probably all the books. Yeah, I've been telling a story this week that when I was like 10, I started to figure out like, oh, I might be a nerd. Like I'm starting to sense that maybe that's the case.
But you see, being a nerd is super cool now.
Right.
When I was young.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago, guys. I know I don't look it, but it's like before the times. It wasn't cool.
No, it wasn't cool when I was starting to suspect it. But so I went to a meeting at the chess club because I was like, I might as well commit to this. And I walked in, I went through one meeting of the chess club, and I was like, this is not the kind of nerd I am. Nope, not this kind. So yeah, it was the book kind, which is why I eventually went to law school, because if you're a book girl, they say law. If you're a math girl, they're like doctor. Well, this might be my thing as the daughter of an immigrant. That might specifically be my thing. But yeah, that was my. Anyway, what were we talking about? Nerds.
I can't remember. Does anyone remember what we're talking about?
I have a tendency to do this to my interviewers.
Talking about. I think we moved. We were talking about. So yes. And then you got a traditional publisher. And
yes.
How was that? Did your editor come in and go, "I love this. Don't change a single thing," or were you going, "I want to change things, add things"?
I only wanted to do light edits, definitely. Well, partially because the book had been out in the world for almost 2 years already. My big thing was I was like, I am only doing this if I can promise them that book 2 is coming out soon, next year. And then that was a terrible thing to do to myself. That's how much I love you. Yeah, book 2 is coming out in October, which was when I thought that the Atlas 6 was going to be my project. I thought I was going to have to focus on my young adult, which comes out in May, which is also coming out in the UK, so that's exciting news. Slightly later than in the US, my apologies. But this summer. So I thought I was going to have to do that, and then I'd write book 2, and then I could maybe get it out in the winter. So to have them say no, we can do October, it was like, yes! And then it was like, oh wait, I have to write it. So yeah. But I'm glad it worked out the way it did. I actually feel that I don't want to. How do I want to say this? It was hard to revise book 1 because I was wrestling with 2020 me, and when you're trying to be a writer, it's something that becomes both easier and more difficult because you start to understand the flow of writing. You start to understand the process. You have practice. You develop your writing endurance. It's I know how to end a manuscript because I've done it lots of times before. But since you are constantly getting better, the bar just keeps going higher and higher, hopefully. And yeah, so that it constantly feels like you're doing worse actually. But yeah, so book 1 was really hard because it was okay, I don't really want to mess with things. I don't want to this is not a situation where I can start from scratch. So in that sense, book 2 was much, much easier. That was like I can just be in my current voice and write the book I want to write. And yeah, I hear from my husband and Lil Cymera that book 2 is better. So
That's exciting.
those are the reviews I can give you.
And have you sent your book 2 to your editor yet?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So I just sent in. It's already been transmitted by the publisher. Copy edits were sent in last week, so like it's in its.
That is so quick.
Yeah, it's full on existing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, when you'd finished book 1, did you know this was a trilogy?
Yes. So for me, so I knew it was a trilogy before, because I knew just on a sort of instinctual level. I didn't know anything about what the plots were going to be of the sequential books. I just knew that it was going to take me 3 books to tell it. If it were a fan fiction, I could tell it all in one go. My fan fictions are very long. But I knew that I compare it to Westworld, where like book 1 is like you're only in Westworld and that's all you can see. And then you start to sort of slowly zoom out and you see the implications of the outside world. So like that you get glimpses of the outside world in book 1. You get a glimpse of how magic has been like integrated into the capitalist system. So money has been privatized and monetized, which is a thing that happens a lot, but especially in the United States, like magical healthcare has been privatized, which is an important aspect of one of the characters' lives. So now in book 2, you are starting to see more about that. I almost gave away spoiler.
You're the worst.
I am the worst.
Okay, so you've written book 2, book 3?
Yeah, I'm writing book 3 right now.
Wow.
Yes.
Do you still find time? I mean, do you still have the urge to tell other stories, or are you solely
I do.
focused on?
I do. Yeah.
Are you still writing fan fiction?
I'm not. The most recent thing I wrote was I wrote a little Rebecca fanfic that I'm actually very pleased with. It's a little twisted. So fan fiction is that's when I can do things that are like, let's not delve too far into that. Yeah, I wrote it as what's his name? Max De Winter. He's a serial killer in this version, and he just keeps killing his wives.
Cheerful. So a much happier book.
Is it?
No, it really not. Okay, so the whole story was born out of confronting, capitalism, but also old white men?
Yeah. Yes.
Basically?
Yeah, well, they're kind of built into capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like the shelves of the bookcase of capitalism.
Kind of.
Yeah.
So are we going to get any... we've got our young Medeans, females. Are we going to get any, like a Atlas equivalent in female? They just not exist? Spoilers. I'm just going to... Gonna go back to...
There is a character in book 2 that I cannot wait for you to meet, and it's killing me. It's killing me. It's literally, it's like, it's hurting. There's like a shoulder knot.
Okay, we're just gonna move on. Why are there no animals?
Why are there no animals?
In the like a cat, a dog? They not got any pets?
You know what's so funny? At some point while I was writing my second young adult book, it occurred to me that I never write pets, which is weird. I have a dog.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. I feel like my dog is like, he spends most of his time judging me. I like to explain my relationship with my dog. So he's a rescue dog, and like I was on Instagram. I was at work one day really late, and I was on Instagram and found this dog from like a local shelter, and I was like, oh my God, I must have this dog. He's beautiful. He's so cute. Look at how soulful his eyes are. And then, so we got him, and he only loves my husband. So to my dog, I am Meredith Blake from The Parent Trap. You know, the one who's like, it's not a crime to be young and beautiful, you know. That's what my dog thinks of me. He used to do this thing where he would like, now we have a baby, which is even worse for him. He is having a very terrible time. But he used to, like, when my husband and I were on the couch, this is a pit bull, okay? He's a big dog. He's like 70 pounds. He would climb into my husband's lap in between us, and then he would, at me. Excuse me, you're here. I invited you into my home. You don't even pay rent. Anyway, So why are there no pets? Why are there no animals?
I feel we're getting to the bottom of this. Okay, let's go back to your characters. Now, I know you don't have a favorite because they're all your babies. But if you had to go clubbing with one of them, who would you go with?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, there's so many good answers to this.
It's all right, we've got another 5 minutes.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like Parisa would be great, but at the same time, she doesn't like, I would just be like an accessory to her. And probably not even a good one. She'd be like...
I mean, she does say that at the beginning, doesn't she? She doesn't have girlfriends anymore. She doesn't do that.
Right, yeah. I mean, I feel like I could be a good girlfriend for Parisa, but I also suspect she disagrees. And I feel like... Certainly not Raina. Raina would leave immediately. Oh, I almost gave another way. Why haven't you guys read this book? It's so rude. I feel like it would honestly come down to Tristan and Callum, just because it would just be so entertaining to watch.
Yeah, but Libby and Nico would stand in the corner and shout at each other all night. That'd be quite entertaining.
I don't know. I feel like Nico would dance.
Yeah.
Nico would dance.
What's his music? What does he listen to?
Well, Nico can salsa.
Ah, yes, of course.
This is a canonical fact.
It's true, I'd forgotten about that.
So, yeah, I actually think that Nico, in this instance, Nico would be too busy dancing. He would maybe pause to be like, Rhodes, stop Rhodesing this. Just get out and dance like it's just a zit, Rhodes.
I love that. Stop being so Rhodes. She says that so much to her. I love how codependent those two are. They just don't realize it. Maybe do they?
Well, I like to bring up Libby because I love when people come up to me and they're like, I am Libby. And it's like, yes, I know. Well, I mean, I know because I was a young woman in academia. I know that anxiety. I know that that perfectionism, that fear of failure. It's visceral. I know it. And there's a reason that things happen to her. And I wanted you to feel like she was you so that I could do things to you later.
And she seemed so nice up until now, didn't she? It's these authors.
I like to have fun.
Fun. You have a strange idea of fun.
I have an odd social life, I agree.
That's okay. Right, lovely audience. Have you thought about any questions yet? You've got about 2 minutes. And also, our lovely online audience, if you've got any questions. The power of technology. I should really check if I've had any stop talking messages from my online people yet. And they're like, what are you going on about? Ooh, we've got questions from online. So in the house, people, you better, ramp up. Oh, we've got questions. Shall we go to questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to calm down because we only have 2 mics. So I'm going to fall off this stage really elegantly. I went to boot camp yesterday. Everything hurts. Right.
Hi, welcome to Scotland.
Oh, thank you. I love it here.
I was just wondering, when you were writing the first book, there's so many different relationships, friendships. Did you have a clear idea in mind when you first were writing it? But then when you were going
my contact just came loose. So if I'm weirdly blinking at you, it's no, I love this question. What I love specifically about this question is that my editor, when we were revising book 1, she was like, can you send me a quick little summary of the relationships? And instead I sent her a full Excel matrix. And but a lot of it was so I went in with my thoughts on what I talk all the time about how I see my characters as shades on a color wheel and that they have they're sort of equal and opposite. And I didn't know how that was going to end up. What I really, really want, the dream, so you go into this book thinking any of these characters could kiss or kill any of the others at any given moment. This is the audience I'm writing for. It's the audience who is willing to see where that goes. So when I started writing, I did not know where we were going to end up. I am definitely a romance, I'm a romantic at heart, but at the same time, this was me exploring a lot of different textures of relationships and in ways that change and sort of ebb and flow throughout the books. And so each character has a very complex relationship with each of the others, and a very specific one, and some that you don't see until much further on in the books. But no, I am so easily bored that I like to just let myself figure it out as we go. So I did not know. I had absolutely no idea, and I know social media was always on my case about this. I did not know the end game pairings when I wrote book 1. So yeah, now I do.
Okay, have we got any more questions from the room, or we'll go online?
Oh, you got lots of questions.
I turned my back, and then there was questions.
I will try not to ramble. No problem.
No, you're allowed. We've got like a whole 15 minutes. I'm going to go over here. Maybe because I stood up too
That's how
quickly.
much time I have to ramble?
Hi,
Hi.
fellow American here.
Oh, hi.
So this question might be a bit indulgent. I'm actually doing a PhD on dark academia. So,
Jamie.
so I guess my question for you is like, obviously this is heavily marketed and pitched as dark academia.
Yes.
So when you were writing this, what role did that play? Like, were you like, I'm going to write to dark academia, or did it just, you wrote it and people are like, this is academia?
So no, I just wrote it, and I actually thought when I released it in January 2020 that I was late to the trend, because by that time A Deadly Education had been announced, Ninth House had been announced. They hadn't come out yet, but the fact that they had already been written made me feel like, oh, this has already been done. So that's part of the reason I didn't traditionally publish. What I was thinking when I wrote it was that I wanted to do, I had at that point read The Secret History, which is like, you cannot discuss dark academia without talking about the secret history. And I had read If We Were Villains. And I had also read another book that people don't really talk about, We Wish You Luck, I think, by Caroline Zanken. That has a really cool structure. You guys should read it. It's really interesting. It's first person plural. Anyway, yeah, I know, it's crazy. It's really well done. Anyway, so I knew that I wanted to write, to me, the Atlas 6 is true academia. That's like, we are going to talk about the universe. We're going to talk about these subjects, and we're going to, sort of ruminate at length, like, as long as it takes me to get through this thing I think is interesting, which to me, that was what I loved about The Secret History. That was like, yes, we're going to talk about art. We're going to talk about beauty and what that means. And so that's what I wanted to do here. The fact that it's being like, like, oh, dark academia, that's not something I planned. That's not even something I really saw in it. Now I see it, of course, but certainly it is a book that is all vibes. So, and I do think of it as a psychological thriller. In my head, this is a blend of genres. It has like elements of, it's obviously a speculative world, but it's also a little bit literary, and it's also a little bit of a psychological thriller.
Definitely.
Oh, but sorry, but the reason I was so excited to hear that you're like a scholar of dark academia is that my UK publishers want me to do, they asked me to do a YouTube video on dark academia, and I was like, I would love to find someone who is actually studying what dark academia means. Yeah. Yes, I'll talk to you later. But yeah, so because I would love, I'm trying to have them do a little like mini TED talk on like what is dark academia, like aside from just like Pinterest boards. So yeah.
100%. I was like, how do you even dress for dark academia?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I had a hard time. But anyway.
It's very difficult. Right, we're going to go to an online question because I'm sitting quite comfortably here.
Okay.
From, I apologize for the pronunciation, Ayasha. Is introspective, character-driven, focused books, is that your jam? Is that what you're going to do from now on in?
Oh, this is absolutely my jam. Other people here have read my other books, right? That's my jam, isn't it? Yeah. I do have an idea. I should not be talking about stuff like this, but I have an idea for what my next standalone book will be, and I really want it. It's in my head as like the Royal Tenenbaums meets, fantasy. So like prodigies, like washed up prodigies and what they're doing now. Because I feel like as a person who was, I'm one of those like gifted kids who now has a mental disorder. And I'd love to see what that means, magically speaking. So I have an idea for that. That's what I want to do next.
Very Umbrella Academy, maybe.
I keep being told this. I've never seen the Umbrella Academy.
What? Out. Sorry, the signing is cancelled.
Okay.
Olivie Blake is going to watch all 3 series of Umbrella Academy.
No, I actually, books are my favorite medium. So, TV is like a thing that I sometimes get around to. I'm watching The Great right now. I friggin' love it. It is incredible writing. The performances are great. Yeah. Sorry.
You could read the comics, Umbrella Academy comics. Right?
I know. I could do that. You're right. You're right. I can read.
Top tip.
Yeah.
Right, there was a question over here. Which one of you was it? Oh, it was you. Very good.
I'm kind of curious as to what Gideon was up to during Nico's year at the Society. Talk about that spoilerlessly.
Let's see. No spoiler, but I feel like we get to hear from Gideon more in book 2. So, yeah. We get to hear from Gideon a few times and moving into the future. So, yeah, I don't want to just... I'm trying to rein it in. I'm trying so hard.
It's okay. October is quite close. It's not far at all.
I know, but then I'm going to not be able to talk about book 3, and it's going to be so annoying.
I noticed in your new book, which I have like an arc of, which I'm very excited about reading, that there was like Taylor Swift references. So I was wondering if you related any Taylor Swift songs to any of the characters in the book.
What a good question. I haven't
I
really...
liked I Did Something Bad to like Parissa, kind of gave me that.
Oh, yeah. What was I love this. Why would I answer this question? You guys have this. You have this well in hand. I feel like I'd have to sit down with that because that's such a... Also, everyone else knows better than I do. I mean, I have a lot of Taylor Swift like conspiracy theories. That's just something that I do.
Do you have a favorite Taylor Swift song, of any?
So Taylor Swift's favorite, or my favorite Taylor Swift album is 1989. And that's because I was born in 1989. Well, it's not solely because of that, but it certainly doesn't hurt. It's me, Taylor Swift, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, so it was a big year. That is a relevant fact for reasons I'm not supposed to talk about.
Okay, moving on. Any other questions from the room? Aha. Oh, I'll come back to you.
This was just, I thought about what you were saying about pets, but see, Max, is there any chance of learning more about him in the future?
Max is not a pet.
I know, but the dog
Max.
made me think
No,
of that.
I actually was going to mention that Max is there.
The dog made me think of him, because he seemed interested.
He is interesting. I know a lot more about Max than has been said in the book so far. It will probably come up in book 3. I'm trying to think if there's... So I think what's been established so far is that Max comes from magical money, same as Nico. And Max's specialty is not that advanced. Like Max is one of those where he would have been walking a line between like witch and Median. So the difference between a witch and a Median is it's basically like academic elitism. It's just like you are only a Median. You only qualify if you get a college degree. Or like if you qualify for a university degree, then you're a Median. Otherwise, you're just a witch. And so Max was really walking a fine line. And that might be relevant in book 3.
You are such a terrible teacher.
I'm the worst. I am absolutely the worst. Someone should manage me.
It's you.
Hi. Coming off of that music question, actually, I was wondering if you had specific music that you'd listen to get into the mood for writing for it, or for different characters, and what that might be.
This is a great opportunity for me to bring up that I have a public Spotify, and there's a playlist called Vibe, and that is what I write all sex scenes to. You're welcome. But it kind of varies per book. I wrote some very pivotal scenes of Alone with You in the Ether to the the Vivaldi Four Seasons, the one that's recomposed by Max Richter. I write all my action scenes to the soundtrack to the King Arthur film that like lots of people hated, but really it was like the sweet spot for me. I love that movie. And for the Atlas 6, so the Atlas 6 has a public playlist, and it's very loud. Sometimes I see people are like, I'm starting the Atlas 6 and I'm going to play the playlist, and I'm like, no, don't do that. Don't do that, no. Because it's just vibes. It put me in like a very cinematic like mood. So I don't listen to music while I write. I listen to it while I'm sort of meditating on what I'm going to write. But for this one in particular, the song "The Best" by AWOL Nation is just like that sums up this book for me in one song.
Very good. Okay, we've got time for the far back.
Ooh, you're just in the void back there. Oh gosh, I mean, initially I was going to say, it was the opposite. I wanted really badly not to be an author for a long time because, again, my immigrant mother really wanted me to be a lawyer. My whole family was very, very disappointed in me when I dropped out of law school, and it was a whole thing. And it was just like, I'm sorry, guys, this is all I can do. So I, in that sense, it's hard to say that anything like inspired me. Because it's like, if anything, I was like really fighting it. But let's see, what did I really? When I was younger, I really loved, and I still really love the way that Patricia C. Reed tells stories. Tamara Pierce, like the first thing I ever wrote was for a competition for my library that I did win. That was totally a Tamara Pierce knockoff. This is why I say all writers, like the reason you can't like be too invested in the first thing you write is because the first thing you create is probably pretty derivative. Same with artists, the first thing you do, it looks like something you've seen before, and then eventually you like get the skill to do more complex things. But yeah, no, and I never really knew what kind of stories I wanted to tell either. It was just that, I don't know, maybe you can tell I've got a lot of thoughts and don't know how to make them be quiet, so I just try to write them down.
Okay, any more? Oh, the front. God. Honestly.
Oh, hi! I know you from Twitter.
Oh, we'll come to you in a second.
So you were saying you had like inspiration for Raina as a character. Did you have any other inspirations for your other characters? Like, were they inspired by anything in particular?
Not really. I know a lot of people have theories about this, and those theories are not correct. But I did write one particular relation dynamic for a long time, and so I tend to naturally lean into that one, but not on purpose. So this one, to me, is these characters are all brand new. Sorry. The people who know are going to know.
They're all parts of you. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. They are all parts of me, so my apologies for Callum.
I am just very interested to know, when you tweeted about signing those books in LAX, did you just open it and show them your picture and say, can I please sign these? They're mine.
You know what's so funny? I did do that, but the US version doesn't have a picture in it. So I went to show her it was me, and then it just said my name, and she's like, okay. So that's exactly what happened, and yeah, so I do feel very strange about it, that I'm like, you have my book here, and they're like, oh, which book is it? And I'm like, oh, it's that one on the bestseller list. It's like the silliest thing I ever do. It feels crazy.
I mean, you could not, but what's the point?
Yeah.
I think you should embrace it.
Yeah, I feel like that I haven't fully embraced it. My husband and I ran into someone on the street who I hadn't seen in probably a good 10 years, and she was like, "So what are you up to now?" And I was like, "Oh, I write books." And then we just sort of all were quiet for a while. Well, typically people are like, oh, anything I've heard of. And for years I was like, nope, you've never heard of me. And then in the one instance where I might have had any, and then she didn't ask. So I was like, yeah.
But then also, this is published under a pseudonym.
It is.
So
Right.
How do we know this is actually written by you?
This is true. We don't.
I think we have to question her further, but we have run out of time for this particular hour. But there will be, I'm holding this for a purpose, don't worry, I'm not just being, there is a signing, which will be next door. It's just where you got your drinks. There's a little room.
There's a signing and a ritual sacrifice. I'm sorry. Signing or ritual sacrifice. We'll see.
I think we were just going to pick from Eventbrite an email or something. We're just going to see.
Yeah,
This place locks.
We'll see where the evening takes us.
So we have come to the end of our formal chat.
Very formal.
Do come while you get your book signed. If you've got more questions, please just ask them. I mean, we need to leave eventually, but we've got time. So I need to say thank you to the Caves for letting us play in their beautiful space. Thanks Ghosts
amazing.
for not hanging out. I have to say thanks to Illumicrate for cupcakes. I think there's loads left, so if you like them, please have another. Because, they'll all fit in my car. And then thanks to Novelic, which is a new book club app. And if you've got a cup in your, that's why I'm holding this. You've got a cup in your bag, and if you scan the barcode, it goes straight there. And you can find out what they do. Something with books, I believe. Thanks for Tor.com, Tor Books, for bringing Olivie to Edinburgh. Edinburgh. It's where it's at. Guys, come on. Edinburgh.
Yes.
More authors should come to Edinburgh.
I have been here before, and I love it, and I was so excited to get to come here again. I love it here.
It's the best. It's the best. You don't have to work very hard, actually, to get authors to come to Edinburgh. You just have to ask. And then they all say yes. And then you have a program with 80 authors and you don't know what to do with them. Which is my plug for Cymera, Scotland's Festival of Science Fiction, Fantasy and Horror Writing, which is the first weekend in June. Come and see people. There's people, Tasha Suri, Adrian Tchaikovsky, Megan Wayland Turner, others. And Olivie will be back, although she'll be online.
I'll be there
She'll
virtually.
be online, virtually.
Yes.
And the biggest thanks to Olivie Blake for being amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I do just want to say, so I've learned over the past couple days that sometimes people come up to me and they're a little bit nervous and they don't know what to say. So if you don't know what to say, make me a book recommendation. Tell me your favorite book, your comfort book, whatever. If you're just if you don't know what to say. If you do know what to say, then say that. But I always love to talk about books. Okay, that's all.